Stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Welcome, everyone. This is Tuesday, September 6th. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, come up to the microphone. Give us your name and your address. Tell us what's on your mind. Keep your comments and questions somewhere around 3 minutes, if you could, please. I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Cedar?
Here.
Hinswater?
Here.
Lehman?
Here.
Kufa?
Here.
Laporte?
Here.
Hall?
Present.
Foltz?
Here.
All present, Your Honor.
Thank you. 4, consent agenda. A, City Council minutes of August 15th, 2022, special and regular meetings, recommendation approved. B is the City Council minutes of August 18th, 2022, special meeting, recommendation approved.
Motion to approve A and B is presented.
I will support with a correction.
Okay.
In the minutes of our last meeting, reports from administration, the date for the special meeting budget workshop was shown as September 18th, which is a Sunday. I think it was meant to be today, so.
Good catch.
Anything else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm going to open the public hearing for the 22-23 fiscal year budget. This time is Amy.
Yes, Amy Hart, City Accountant, will be presenting the PowerPoint.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. On tonight's agenda is the adoption of the 22-23 fiscal year budget. During this public hearing and before public comment, I would like to keep the tradition alive and provide you and the members of the public with a brief overview of the major items included in the budget. So I did put a few copies of the budget by the door over there, if anybody is interested in picking one up. It's also been posted to the city website, and I believe you also all have copies of the budget in your packets. So with that, I will get started. So going into next year, we're looking at total revenues of $15,423,000, total expenditures of $16,199,000. Narrowing it down to just the general fund, we have general fund revenues proposed of $5,501,000 and general fund expenditures of $5,765,000. Our millages, I will go into a little bit more detail on a future slide. An overview right now is our operating millage is at 12.8641. Road millage is 2.4551. Pension millage is 0.9859 for a total city millage of 16.3051. So on the taxes, all the rates have decreased a little bit from last year. This is the second year in a row that the Headley Amendment has taken effect. We are levying the maximum allowable millage under the Headley Amendment. Does anybody have any questions on the Headley Amendment? Okay, I'll go on. Just a little fun fact is 45 cents of every property tax dollar paid by homestead property tax owners goes to the city, and the rest pays for school and county services. Our total tax revenue for next year is projected to be $3,886,000, and this is still below the 2007 high of $4,023,000, but above the 2014 low of $3,041,000. If we're on track, we might hit our all-time high in fiscal year 24. So we're finally catching up, and it's been many years. The general fund, I've just kind of put the major capital expenditures that are currently accounted for in the budget. The police vehicle, $45,000. They did get one last year too, but sometimes it's every year, sometimes it's every other year based on the vehicles that they currently have. There's also a fingerprint reader in the budget for $8,000, and they're on track. They replace one of those, I believe it's every 7 years. The City Hall needs a new roof. It's estimated at this point for $100,000. There's also some other building improvements that will hopefully be able to be done depending on what bids come back at for the roof. On the City Hall website and security upgrades of $35,000. The Clinton Avenue bike path, now the total cost is looking at about $950,000. That is offset by about $845,000 in grants and contributions. So the net cost to the city is not very much, and funds have already been set aside in fund balance to pay for the bike path. And finally, the community center roof needs some building improvements. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. The community center needs a new roof and some building improvements, and we have that set at $52,000. Pensions is a stickler. We're still getting through it. Our monthly MERS contribution every year goes up a little bit, just trying to reach our funding status and get up to our goal of 60% in the short term. So our next year's monthly contribution is going to be $82,482, and this is mostly to pay for the unfunded liability. We're going to keep seeing significant increases over the next 20 years or so because of the unfunded liability. The laws changed, I don't remember how many years ago now, 5-7 years ago, when we had to recognize the complete liability. We are making progress. Our pension plan was 56% funded as of December 31st, 2021. Back on 2020, it was 52%, so we made a 4% increase in the last year. With recent market declines, however, not sure what effect that's going to have on things, but I think they're going to be short-lived, and it should grow back once the market recovers. An additional $150,000 is included in the 2023 budget to assist the city in increasing this funding ratio. And another step that has been taken is the pension plans are now closed to all future union hires. This here just shows a graph of basically how we can get to the fully funded status and how our payments are going to grow throughout the years. There's 3 assumptions here based on the rate of return at 7%, 6%, and 5%. I know it's a little hard to see. The blue line is what we are currently tracking at, and that's at the 7%. But you can see the payments do go up every year in order to reach our goal of fully funded status in 2040. Retiree healthcare is another one out there. The dollar amount is not near as high, and we're on track. We're doing pretty good on our retiree healthcare. Back in fiscal year 2020, we actually opened up a trust fund and put in $550,000. That was a lot bigger, but with the market declines, we're still showing that as of June 30th, the balance of that is $609,000. I don't have this in there, but if I recall right, the total goal is about $2 million. I'm going from my memory here of fully funded status would be $2 million. So we do have a $25,000 contribution that we put in each year for that to get us, as well as paying the current premiums. Okay, major streets in the next year. Some of this is carryover from last year because the projects didn't get done, but Fred Moore Highway, everybody knows, is currently in progress, but that's going to cross into the next fiscal year. Since September 30th is our year end, it's not going to be completed by then, so the cost will go into next year. We do have some grant funds coming in to help pay for that, but the total city cost expected for this project is expected to be about $733,000. Kearney Drive resurfacing from Range Road to Fred Moore Highway. We are receiving a large grant for that as well. So $864,000 is expected in grant funds. Total city cost for this project is expected to be $213,000, and that will hopefully be done next spring. Our local streets, the funding allotted for next year local streets is $759,697. We currently do not have the plan completely finalized as to which roads are going to be done next year. That's going to be in future discussions with council. Our wastewater sewer fund, we have $120,000 budgeted for wastewater treatment plant improvements. And there is an engineering study currently in progress of the wastewater treatment facilities to plan for future capital projects and look at regional solution for wastewater treatment. Now, for the water fund, we were awarded and we are allocated a $970,000 federal grant, which is going to be used for the shoreline pump station improvements and a water treatment plant roof. This amount has been allocated to us, but the award has not been finalized, and this grant does require a 20% match for $242,500. Other major water treatment plant improvements are currently in the planning stages. Design engineering has begun. The current timeline is showing construction to begin in fiscal year 2024. The last comment here said debt financing is anticipated. However, today I just got word that we are 95% secured in our funding for that, and we are actually awarded a $2.7 million grant towards it with funding of a little over $8 million. So out of the $11 million we applied for. I thought that was fantastic news. I was not expecting that grant, so. There's been some small increases to water, sewer, and rubbish charges proposed to help offset some increased costs due to inflation. Right. A little bit about the golf course in the harbor. We do have a planned $75,000 transfer from the general fund to support the golf course operations and help build a cash balance. I'm just trying to strengthen that a little bit. If it turns out during the year that that $75,000 transfer from the general fund to the golf course is not needed, then that transfer will not be completed. A new golf cart purchase has been approved at a cost of $131,000 to replace our current aged fleet. A loan from the general fund is anticipated to assist with the purchase of this delivery, and we're hoping that's going to be late next summer. On to the boat harbor. Included in the boat harbor's budget is $30,000 for a replacement launch and $35,000 to replace one of the 8 dock boards. And we are getting close to paying off the outstanding harbor debt obligation. It's down to $230,000. The final payment for that will be made in fiscal year 2026. Nice to see progress being made on those. And that's it.
You just made me think of something. When is our sewer debt? We have a bond that's retiring soon,
The sewer debt, the final payment will be made this year.
this year.
Sorry, 2023. I believe that's the very last one. Pardon me?
I thought November, but I'm just,
I think it's October or November.
Yeah.
Yes, just a couple
what does
weeks
that, do you know, ballpark
I
the
don't
amount?
remember offhand what
I want
that
to say
is.
240, but that'd be guessing.
That seems about right. I was thinking 240, 250, somewhere in there. And I think that's a final payment on that loan, too.
Yeah.
So that's pretty exciting, too, to see him retired.
Good job.
Does anybody have any questions? Wonderful. Thank you.
Anything from the public?
Shirley wants to.
Just only for dealing with the budget, anything on the budget? Yeah.
Thank you, Amy.
Okay, before I close the public hearing, I just wanted to put know that City Council and Amy and administration, we have met for the last at least 2 previous meetings and did budget workshops. And so we were well read on this information, and I want to thank Amy and Annette for the hard work they did on this. So at this time, if there's no any public questions about the budget, I'm going to close the public hearing and move on to number 6, ordinances, resolutions. And the first one just happens to be 6A, the resolution 2217, fiscal year 22-23 budget, millage, levy, and appropriations act.
So we're looking for a motion and a second to approve the budget with the changes most recently made, removing one of the items from the capital improvement project.
I'll make that motion.
All right, the motion's been made and supported. Questions? All right, call the roll, please.
Hall.
Yes.
Volz.
Yes.
Kinsbatter.
Yes.
Lehman. Kufa.
Yes.
Laporte.
Yes.
Cedar.
Yes.
Resolution adopted.
All right, thank you. Again, thank you, Amy. Thank you, Annette.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to B, resolution 2218, local development finance authority. Downey, is this you?
Your Honor, the city administration was approached about a potential development in the industrial park north of Yankee Road, which, if it were to come to pass, would significantly implicate the infrastructure in the area, namely the water and sewer. And there is a financing mechanism that would permit the city to address those infrastructure challenges that would be posed by that development namely a local development financing authority. But in order for the city to do that, there has to be a declaration of city council's intent to pursue that path. So before you tonight is a proposed resolution that would declare the city council's intent to explore this local development financing authority option, which would allow the city, if completed, to pay for the necessary infrastructure upgrades necessary to support this development in the industrial park. As a part of the resolution, there also needs to be a public hearing set, and I believe that is a part of the resolution as well. There are some rather peculiar deadlines in terms of the notification and the notices required by the city on this public hearing. They can't be set out 40 days ahead of the hearing, but they can't be published within 20 days of the hearing. So I think that we settled on the second meeting of October. I don't happen to have that one handy, but that would be the proposed public hearing date. And by that time, it would be administration's task, and we're working, just so the council's aware, with the Economic Development Alliance of St. Clair County and with St. Clair County itself to address some of these issues. But the city would need to really sharpen the details of this proposed finance authority so that at the time of the public hearing in October, we would be able to state with specificity what it is that the city is trying to accomplish and address any questions that the public might have. Excuse me, and one other issue, I guess this is sort of related to the administration's function as well, but there's an ongoing study by the city's special engineer on this, Fishbeck, who is trying to determine exactly how this proposed development would impact the city's water and sewer. And we are still awaiting a final determination from Fishbeck, because one of the pieces of the puzzle that we would be presenting at the time the council would consider whether or not to adopt this financing mechanism would be to cite specifically what the cost to the city would be for these various upgrades. So there are a number of variables that have yet to be ascertained, but will be in the coming weeks. But tonight would be step one of a several-step process where the council, if it so chooses, would declare its intention to investigate this option further.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Support. All right, the motion's been made and supported. Any questions?
You're feeling reasonably assured that we'll meet all those timelines in time for October 17 on all that information we need?
I think so. This has been an ongoing discussion, Councilmember Vols, and I think that the city is in position to be able to do that.
Okay.
Any other questions? I have one, and I know, and I've read it, and I've heard you say it, but I just want to make sure it's on record, I guess. What we're approving tonight sets no boundaries, sets no financial responsibility on the city at this point. It just says we're willing to work on this and move forward.
That's correct.
All right. Any other questions? All right, call the roll, please.
Foltz,
Yes.
Kinsvater,
Yes.
Lehman. Yes. Kufa,
Yes.
Laporte,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Downey. C, ordinance adoption 2022 PUD public hearing requirement. That is that. Oh, that's you?
You like, members of council, before you this evening is a proposed resolution up for adoption. It was introduced at council's last meeting, and essentially what the ordinance amendment does is it resolves a conflict or a tension between our ordinance as written and a subsequent amendment of state law. Essentially, the former city ordinance about to be amended stated that a public hearing in connection with a plan unit development had to be done at the planning commission level, but a subsequent amendment of state law requires that public hearing be scheduled at city council for city council hearing. And in order for our ordinance to comply with the state law, we have to make this change.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
All right, made and adopted, or made and supported, sorry, any questions? All right, call the roll, please.
Kinsvater.
Yes.
Kleeman. Kufa.
Yes.
Laporte.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Foltz.
Yes.
Cedar.
Yes.
Ordinance adopted.
Thank you. Reports of Administration, A, City Superintendent.
Yes, a couple updates for council, a couple road updates. Frederick Highway repair is on schedule and should be completed by the end of October. I know we've had to work through a couple traffic configurations, but I think it's going as well as it could be. After an unexpected delay with the contractor's schedule, resurfacing of Highland Drive, Turnberry, Glen Eagles, and St. Andrews is scheduled to begin next week. I know residents in that area received a notice mid-July, and that didn't happen, so there's been some confusion there, but I do want to publicly state that it is slated to begin next week. South 10th Street will be discussed during new business, so we'll talk about that more then. And two other items, the MML liability and property pool renewal is up. Our contract expires 10/1, so that will be presented for council approval at the next meeting. I know there was previous discussion to put that out to bid, so in order to do that, I just want to remind council to discuss that in the spring of '23. So there's ample time to complete the RFP process and comply with the 60-day notification of the bid requirement. So just wanted to remind you of that and let you know it's coming at the next meeting. And then lastly, the special events that the city sponsors, the 4th of July fireworks and St. Clair Jazz Fest, have completed. They were successful once again, and wrap-up meetings and pre-planning meetings for next year are already occurring. We have one scheduled for next week and then another the last week of September. That is my report for today.
All right, any questions? B, City Attorney, you have anything else?
Your Honor, I was asked by administration to address one issue that's been the source of some questions at City Hall in recent weeks, and that is the process by which the city approves business licenses. There's an ordinance at Chapter 18 of the City Code that specifies very particularly how a business comes to operate in the city. And essentially, there are three pieces to that. The city clerk is required to verify the accuracy and the authenticity of the representations that are made on an application that the potential business owner submits. Secondly, and I'm going to come back to this point because it's a little bit more involved, but there has to be a compliance piece that is verified as well. And then finally, the applicant must be found not to have any debt to the city. If the person operates another business, are they code compliant? Have they paid their taxes? Are there any liens against the property? But verifying those three details, the clerk is required to issue a business license. There's no discretion involved in, we don't need another grocery store, or we don't want another Italian restaurant, or whatever it might be. You have to, the application must be approved upon the completion of that several part analysis. But I do want to address the compliance issue, item 2, because that one is probably the most involved. There's really two parts of that. One, and these two parts are sort of analyzed simultaneously, but one is that the applicant has to declare that the business is going in an area that it is properly zoned for. So in other words, the applicant may not suggest some commercial venture in a residential neighborhood, or an industrial business may not indicate that it wants to build a factory in a commercial district, things of that nature. So that analysis has to occur. And then secondarily, the building itself in which the business is going to operate has to be determined to be code compliant. And there are various codes that the city enforces. Michigan Building Code, Electrical Code, Plumbing Code, Mechanical Code, Fire Code, all those things have to be reviewed, and the building must be determined safe. But with those compliance pieces checked out and approved, again, the question of discretion is taken out of the clerk's hands. A business license must be issued thereafter. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
All right. Any questions from Mr. Downey on that?
And I have nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. Let's go to C, city departments. We have something from the deputy clerk today?
Oh, yes, thank you, Your Honor. Just a reminder to all city residents that your absentee application can be obtained from the city hall during normal business hours for the election of November 8th. And in terms of the renewal of all business licenses in the city of St. Clair, the process in the clerk's department will begin in the next month or so. So all businesses, please look for those forms to come in the mail shortly. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the deputy clerk? D, authorities, boards, commissions, committee chairs, council reps. Mr. Bowles, you have something?
Yes, the second meeting of the Splash Pad Committee recently met. We met with various vendors, including the folks that design the splash pads and the water features, talked about cost, price. We also talked to an engineer who designs parks and looked at like the Cletcham master plan, what might be included in that park, a pavilion, playground, splash pad, some courts, possibly an upgrade to the parking. Lots of great stuff and moving forward on that. So, excellent committee.
Thank you. Keep us posted. All right. Anybody else? No unfinished business. Let's go to number 9, new business. A, approved proposal for South 10th Street. Mr. Kern.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. If you recall, I was here several weeks back here regarding the 10th Street project. We had rejected the loan bid that we had received for that project. At that time, we were talking about putting it back out to bid for construction in spring of 2023. After that council meeting, talking with administration, and we talked with some of the contractors in the area too about the project. Some had shown some interest that they could still do this project this year. So we did put it back out to bid here immediately after our last council meeting. We did receive 3 bids this time, with Murray Underground being the low bid at $336,000. The budget for the project was $300,000. Included in this project is some water improvements that I discussed before in the section between Cedar and Clinton that amounts to about $33,000. That amount would be taken out of the water and sewer fund, with the remaining $303,000 coming out of the local road fund. And I'll entertain any questions you have, but our recommendation would be to award to Murray Underground, and he can complete this work this fall.
Yeah, I guess my only concern would be that we do based on what I've seen, I was able to walk through, it's kind of a separate issue, but I was able to walk through some neighbors' property and see the work that was completed on the North Riverside Sewer Project, and the completion of the work is not up to the standards that I would say is acceptable. And my concern is, are we getting what we're paying for when we give it to the lowest bidder in this case? Because that job it was notified that it was completed in June, and it is very far from completion as far as I'm concerned when I walk through those.
So since that time, we have visited the site with the contractor. There has been some settlement issues out there, particularly on the south end of the project. The first 3 or 4 properties out there, there's been some settlement issues out there that the contractor is to be addressing this week, along with basically cleaning up any other vegetative restoration that needs to be done out there. At that point, the project would be complete. But I guess back in June, we did think that the project was complete, but since that time, there has been some settlement issues, and there's a 2-year warranty on that project.
What was the original bid from Bodie?
It was $340,100.
Come in at 340, and you come and told us that 40,000 over your estimate was too much. Needs to be rebid, correct?
That was that, and because we only had 1 bid.
All right, now we're at 336, roughly $4,000 less. So why now is 336 a good number when 340 was too much?
I've talked with the administration over that. That's where we've come up with that split to where the road portion of it comes out to just over $300,000, and then the water improvements that are needed cover the remaining amount. And that's where we were looking at splitting the cost, splitting the funding up.
But if 40,000 over the estimated quote was too much, how does 36,000 now justify going over 36 and not 40? And why does one bidder, when we only had 1 bidder prior to that, why does that change anything? He's the only one that bid. I mean, everybody had the option the first time. We received 1 bid.
I can't answer as to why contractors didn't bid the first time, but typically we would like to see at least 3 bids come in to have competitive bidding.
I mean,
I think the reason, Mr. Kleeman, is because we only had one bid and it was $40,000 over the budget. And we wanted to see if that bid was accurate with
and now
maybe a
we're-
competitive
now
bidding
we're
process.
36,000 over.
Right, now we're well aware that the 336,000 is probably a good bid.
I don't know, you know, we got a bid and we didn't like it, so I understand we can reject it. Was Bodie offered it at the match the 336, since he was the only original bidder? Was
Was
it consideration to see if you take it?
It's got to be based on the bid that was received.
'Cause he actually bid it the second time, right?
That's correct.
So he's bid this job twice.
Correct.
One time he was the only bidder and the low bidder, and we decided not to do it.
Correct. And the second bid that we received from him is higher.
What was the cost to the city to rebid this?
That was minimal. It was, I mean, a few hundred dollars on our end to do the administration of it. It's minimal.
Well, I'm just curious because now you know the 336, you had that onto it. So I don't know, I'm a little confused on why all of a sudden 336 is a good number when 340 was way, way too far out in left field. That's my only question.
Councilmember Kleeman? So we were hopeful that the bids would come in lower. The estimated cost of the project was about $300,000. So we rejected the first bid, put it back out to bid, again, hopeful that it would come in lower. Since it didn't, we don't propose that it would, if rebidding it, it wouldn't come in any lower. So because of the importance of the project, it's recommended to move forward at this cost. So I can answer
water-
that question,
water
but I can't
portion of
answer your
it,
hypotheticals.
Water portion's an important part of it, correct?
Yes.
Well, I was just curious, and like, you know, we had a guy bid it, and $40,000 was way too much, and he sit there and asked me to approve 36 over the cost.
So are you saying would you feel better going with the second bid then? Is that what you're saying?
I just like the fact that first time they bid it,
And I understand what you're
you
saying.
know, they did their due diligence and bid it, and so what? They were the only bidder.
Yeah, that's not their fault.
Oh no, I would go with. I mean, if he's willing to do it for the same price, I would give it to him. But that's just me.
But we can't take
We can't
three bids and
counter
then go back and say to the guy,
Well,
can
Can
we?
we take his original bid, which
No,
is
because it's
less?
already been rejected.
Okay.
but
What was
no,
the difference?
I'm talking if he was to match
1,300?
the low bid.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
these people bid this 336 knowing what he originally bid, correct?
It's
Right.
public knowledge.
Yeah.
Bid tabulation is public
Yeah.
knowledge. The difference is, roughly $1,300.
But the other two also knew what the original
Exactly.
bid was.
That,
So the other two, including Bodie, understood what their original bid was. They came back and
well, the
increased their
original
bid.
was Bodie's, yeah.
They increased it instead of decreasing it. So if there was any
Right.
incentive to win a bid and come in lower, they didn't.
You know,
Exactly.
To me, it's let's redo it because we didn't get enough bids. And I don't think there was a minimum when we put things out for bid. Is there a minimum? How many bids you have to receive?
It's not specifically stated what the minimum
The
needs to be, but
ordinance-
typically we would require 3 for a competitive
Well, the
bid.
ordinance reads it goes to the low bidder.
Right, but I believe we discussed it at that time, and we wanted to send out the rebid because there was only one contractor that put it out to bid and was $40,000 over what we budgeted for, in hopes that we would get something lower than $340,000.
You know, the way the economy is, you weren't gonna get
Well,
any.
we don't know that though, and that's why we sent it out to rebid.
You know, who are we trying to fool? Think we're gonna get $40,000 knocked
Is
off?
Bodie Construction able to do it this fall or no?
Yes, they are.
Really?
Can we review, so there's two different portions of this. One is approximately $30-some thousand, and that's the infrastructure side of it.
Correct.
And then what is the other portion? And is that dire to do at the same time? Like, is that the question? Is that the concern that you have, Bill?
What's that?
Is your concern that we're $35,000 over budget and?
Oh, no,
only do part of the bu-
I'm concerned that we were 40 and we had to go out and rebid it because we couldn't afford the 40. But now we're at 35 and it's okay at 35, you know.
It wasn't
40
because we couldn't afford the 40, it's because we
What's that?
thought, it wasn't because we couldn't afford the 40, it was because we thought we could get lower than the
$40,000 over budget.
340, because there was only one bid submitted.
I don't, like I said, I don't think it's in our bid specs that we have to have more than one bid. I mean, if
Yeah,
there is, I'd like to know it. I mean, you asked for bids, you received a bid, and he was a low bidder, and, you know, we threw it out. And I don't think it's right. That's just my opinion.
My understanding is at that point in time, none of us, being contractors, were comfortable being $40,000 over budget. Now that we received multiple bids, which this would now be 4 bids that we've received, 2 from the same individual, has been consistent. So with that, more comfortable or greater understanding of not being contractors or missing the mark at 10%, we didn't get the bid right, or the estimate right. It's just an estimate. At this point in time, we needed to make a good faith judgment on who to go with and what the value.
Ryan, the low bidders, Murray?
Yes.
I think it's prudent that this council, if one bid comes in, I don't think there's anything wrong with us saying, look, let's send it back out. Particularly if we think we've got a higher number. And we don't know, but the way stuff is going right now, costs are just changing weekly.
Right.
My feeling is this project needs to be done, the water and the road. And if you think it's $36,000 is high over the 300, what do you think is going to happen next spring when this stuff starts coming down the line?
Yeah, we don't know what the costs are going to be like. If it, I mean, this year we saw costs go up significantly. This year, it's very possible it could continue to go up. We see inflation going up. I mean, this cost could continue to go up significantly.
Yeah. So I guess we're to the point of, I would ask for a motion to complete the project, award the bid to Murray, do the water, the road, and get the darn thing done this year.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support.
All right, the motion may support questions.
Was there any reason, did Murray have a reason why they didn't bid the first time?
I don't know why they didn't bid it on the first time. I don't know if they just didn't see the bid out at the time, or if they thought they weren't, at that time, they may have thought that they weren't capable of doing it this year. I don't know, but
Any other questions?
Murray's done quite a bit of work for us, haven't they?
Body's
They
done
have.
work for us, too.
so, and both contractors have done a fair amount of
I
work in
sort
the
of
city.
agree with Bill Kleeman on this one. I know it doesn't happen often, but I agree with you, Bill.
All right, thank you for that. Call the roll, please.
Kufa,
Yes.
Laporte,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Foltz,
Yes.
Kinsvater,
No,
Lehman,
No.
Cedar.
Yes.
Motion approved.
All right, thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
B, proposal for preliminary engineering study, Charles F. Moore Harbor, St. Clair Boat Harbor, Broadside Dock, Resolution 2219, Michigan Department of Natural Resources Grant.
So yes, we're going to invite Dave Shorkey, Harbor Master, to explain the project, but I want to advise council that this item, it looks a little different. We have a resolution under new business, but there's actually 3 different things that you will be considering. One is the proposal from Avon Marsh, which Dave will explain, and the other is the agreement with the Department of Natural Resources, along with the resolution to say we're going to do everything in that agreement. So there's 3 separate things there to consider, but we can do it in 2 different motions, and I can talk about that after. But Dave, would you like to explain the project, please?
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm proud to say that we have some members of the Harbor Commission here also. Mitch Cuff is our rep from the council, and we have Jim Harkins is our chairman of the Harbor Commission. Nancy Boda is the vice chair, and Keith Wynn is also here. Back in April, we applied for a grant from the Waterways Commission for a engineering study on the North Wall and the Rotary Park area of the marina. In July, we were notified that the grant was approved for us, and then the next step in that we had to have a proposal for an engineering study on that, and the Avon Marsh company is who we've been working with. On August 15th, sent that to us, and we had a Harbor Commission meeting on the 27th, and it was unanimously approved by the Harbor Commission that we should move forward with this project. It's a $75,000 engineering study that goes on. The grant portion is $35,000, and our share is $40,000. It's I think, as we've explained before to you, that the North Wall it's an important part of the marina. It's on the entryway when you come into the Pine River. We use it for broadside docking. There's almost 500 foot there, and there's been a lot of questions on the seawall from the past when it was done in the early 80s, and we want to improve that area, but we need engineering study to see if the seawall is solid, and the Avon Marsh Company put the proposal together, and I think that you all have had a copy of it, but this is a project that we'd like to move forward with.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll support that.
Questions?
Yeah, I got one. All these improvements you're gonna do, Dave, does it stop at the property line with the Edison?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Improvements that you're proposing, new docks, new boards, new electric, new wire, that doesn't include the parcel that's owned by DTE?
That is correct. Yeah, this is,
Whatever's there, infrastructure there, you wouldn't?
yeah, we, they have to stay away from that DTE. On the underwater part, my guess is that, the docking over the top, which is currently there, we would do that, but we can't go in and do any drilling or anything in any public utility
You're
area.
gonna approve that portion of the dock, their portion?
I'm sorry?
You're gonna approve,
Well, I think where that right way is, when they do borings and stuff on either side of it, I think they're going to probably get a pretty good idea. That's something that we'd have to get from the study and the engineering.
Oh, but my question is, when you,
Our intention is to replace the dock button up to
okay, are you
Joe's.
gonna replace the dock on the Edison properties?
That's the intention, yes.
With permission from the Edison?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I'm asking.
Yeah. It's currently covered now, but obviously we'd have to get permission from them, which I don't think would be an issue.
David, with the electrical, is that going to include anything in Rotary Park, or is that just down on the dock?
It's, where it currently is, that is the power for all of Rotary Park, and there was a question that they may have to move, that they would have to move that and improve it. There's a lot of different electrical codes that are coming out. There's one that's for 2023, then there's going to be another updated one for 2026. And, they'll have to be in compliant with that. My guess is that probably some Rotary Park lighting would be involved in that also. But until we get the results on this, we don't exactly know.
All right, I have a motion's been made, supported.
So the motion and support will be to accept the proposal by Avon Marsh, and then we'll have a second one to approve the resolution, so just for awareness.
All right, so call the roll on the first one, please.
Laporte,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Foltz,
Yes.
Hinsbottom,
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
Kufa,
Yes.
Cedar.
Yes,
Motion approved.
thank you.
Right, and the other part was that in order for the agreement for the grant, that it had to be, that we had to have the okay of the engineer proposal.
Yes, so the next motion would be to adopt the resolution to accept the terms of the agreement.
So moved.
Support.
Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Lehman,
Yes.
Kufa,
Yes.
Laporte,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Foltz,
Yes.
Hinsbottom,
Yeah.
Cedar.
Yes,
Resolution adopted.
all right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dave. All right, we'll go to C, approve designation of MML representative and delegate.
Okay, this is the yearly designation of a representative to the yearly convention of the Michigan Municipal League. So it needs to be completed by September 18th. So the recommendation today would be to appoint myself and Mike Laporte as the delegate.
So moved.
Second.
Support.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, and congratulations. All right, D, excuse me, approve removal of shelters and installation of kiosks in Palmer Park.
It's me.
Please.
Thank you. On behalf of the City of St. Clair Recreation Department and the St. Clair Trails Advisory Committee, we are submitting a recommendation for City Council consideration to remove the existing bus stop station at Palmer Park and replacing it with our Bridge to Bay kiosks, which is the same kiosk that currently is at Gregg Park. So the kiosk will provide some shade and cover at the bus stop area, and it will also include Bridge to Bay information and local city information, including a city map that has all of our park locations, streets and roads, and different attractions in the city, like the library and the historical museum. We did consult Blue Water Area Transportation about this recommendation and the removal of the bus stop. So we did get information from them, and we've had several meetings down at the park trying to find the best location for this kiosk. So it'll be placed in the same location. The bus stop shelter will be removed, and the kiosk will be placed in the same location.
On the east side of Palm Park, or the east side of 29.
On the Palmer Park side.
I'll make
So-
that motion.
So there is another bus stop shelter
Get it
located on the west side, and that the Trails Advisory Commission isn't making or committee isn't making a recommendation on that, but that would be up to City Council if you wanted to include just the one at Palmer Park or both shelters.
Teresa, are you increasing the size of the pad that it's on, or just using the one that's existing?
We're using the existing pad. The pad for the kiosks the recommended size is a little bit larger, so until we replace remove the shelter and put in the kiosk, we may have to add on to the existing pad.
So we're on the east side.
On the east side, Palmer Park,
East
yes.
side, yes.
That was my motion.
All right, the motion is to remove the east side of M29 bus stop shelter and replace it with the kiosk. Is there support?
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
Very official. Guess we'll find out.
All right. E, special event permit, St. Mary's Catholic Church alumni basketball game. Chief?
Mayor, council, I received paperwork from St. Mary's. They want to have a alumni basketball on 9th Street between Orchard and Vine. All paperwork's in. I recommend that they do.
Motion to approve.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Special event, St. Clair Chamber of Commerce Halloween night and Christmas market.
And you have that in front of you, I believe, but the chamber's going to have their Halloween nights and all those events, the lantern walks, all that stuff, all their paperwork is in. And
Motion to approve.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Chief. Opposed? Sorry. All right, 10 is claim to the counts of August 18th, 25th, and September 1st.
Make a motion to approve.
Support. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Go to number 11. Public comments and questions. Anybody have any non-agenda items? Please keep it to 3 minutes if you would, please. Your state, your name, and your address. Well, ladies first.
Good evening. My name's Shirley Tyson. I'm going to read this because I'm no good at any of this. And it's 3 pages, but 3 minutes. I live at 615 Clinton Avenue. I've lived in St. Clair since 1945. In my present home, I've lived there since 99. In the last 4 weeks, gravel haulers have been allowed to use Clinton Avenue. I called the city and was told drivers were told not to use Clinton, but the drivers are hard-headed and won't listen. An example of the time frame, 9:39, 9:41, 9:46, 9:54, and 10:04. That's well over 100 trucks in 8 to 10 hours. I could live on the medium of I-94 and have fewer trucks. The house shakes with each passing truck. Anything on the dressers rattle, and the seal on one of my windows have broke. This affects the value of the home, as noise level is a factor taken in consideration in a real estate description. You cannot even carry a conversation on outside. We are residential. There are 63 homes on Clinton from Kearney to Riverside. There are children playing on the sidewalk 12 feet from the road. There has been proposals asking St. Clair citizens to help fund our roads. These wagons weigh over up to 20 tons each. We had a broken water main last year, and I contribute that to the semis. I can't imagine what these gravel haulers are doing to Pine River Bridge. The sign stating "No Through Traffic" on the corner of Kearney and Clinton is gone. Only the post remains. There's no reason that the route for these haulers could be Kearney to King. In closing, when Fred Moore reopens, there needs to be clear signage that Fred Moore is the truck route, not Clinton. St. Clair is our town. We pay the taxes, we take pride in caring for our homes. It's appalling this has been allowed. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. Anybody else? Give us your name and address, please.
My name is Gerald D. Molnar. I live in St. Clair Township. I'm the person that's mentioned in the contracts that I give you a copy of. I think most of you had a chance to look it over. That contract was put together this year by Superintendent Roth and Annette, and they worked very hard on it with Magna. They called them several times to make sure that they had no plans to buy the property that we still, or that you guys still own. So when finally they said they had no plans, then Superintendent Roth called me and said that it was okay to initiate the contract, which I've done probably 15 or 16 of them with the city since you guys took it over.
Do you remember when he called you?
So
Jared.
Yeah.
Do you remember when he called you?
Roth?
Yeah.
Well, the date of the contract is the 23rd. I would say it was a day or two before we.
So he called you on March 20th.
I would say somewhere in that area.
Did you plant immediately?
What?
Or when did you plant after he called you and said that?
It's a good thing you're a mayor, because you don't plant in March.
That's right. When did you plant?
We planted on the third week of June. Okay? Now, what happened was after Superintendent Roth gave me Virgil's number, who is, I found out, is the plant manager at Magna, and I called him and asked him if it was okay if I planted the rest of the property that belonged to them, which is adjoining the city property, and he thought it was a good idea. So I went ahead and decided to plant the whole thing. Now, what happened in the meantime is that we had a wet spring. My wife reminded me that we had a little virus that came into our house. I forgot about that, but she reminded me that there was an issue with that. So at the last ditch effort, I got a hold of Al Simons, who farms a lot of the property around this area here, the corner on Yankee and Range and that, and asked him if I could hire him to plant that because of the fact that the season was moving on quite a ways and he can no-till, which I would have to go in and turn the ground over and all that. So he said, fine. He went in and sprayed it according to the thing I gave you there. He got all the costs, and then he went in and no-tilled it. Well, since then, there must have been a change with Magna's plans, because it seemed like they decided that they wanted to buy that property, which is understandable. If they maybe got some extra money somewhere or something because of the, with the battery issue being exploded all over. But my contract says very specifically that if that happens, they have to pay me back for my cost of doing the planning. Like I said, I've had that contract just about every year since you guys bought the property, or annexed it from the township, and it was never an issue. I mean, I never even considered it. So, and there was actually work done by the city to verify that it would probably be okay again. So, again, something happened, and but now the first of the month, my bill come due from Al Simons, which understandably he wants to get paid too. So I've talked to Annette and Mayor Cedars a couple times about it, and we don't seem to be able to get the attorney to make a commitment if the property has been sold. Now, the lady was complaining about the gravel haulers. Well, that's the city property going by her house, because they've actually, which they have to do in order to build, they've stripped all the topsoil off. So they're definitely making plans to do something there, but I'm kind of like caught with, the contract that says everybody that I show it to, they say was pretty cut and dry. But I guess there was a misunderstanding when the property was sold. And I guess that's what made this whole thing worse for everybody. So I'm asking, what responsibility does the city have to actually uphold this contract that I signed with you? Mr. Downey?
I don't give advice on these matters.
Okay, fine.
It's your opportunity to speak to the council.
Okay, I'm sorry. But every time I hear it, they say that you're the one that actually is talking with...
The administration knows exactly how I stand on this.
What's that?
The administration of the city knows exactly where I stand on this.
Okay, and can I have that input?
No, you may not.
Do I have to pay for it?
They're my client, and you're not.
Okay, so I guess I'm kind of just standing here. I mean, an 80-year-old person doesn't have a really lot of power to challenge you guys, but there is a contract that was established, and I see no reason why it can't be upheld, I mean. And just one other point, you got to tell the Chippewas they got to play defense too.
Jeez. Well, as long as we're making points, I know Downey's going to get mad at me, but I'm going to say it, Gerald. In this contract, it says any purchaser would be required to compensate you. The city's not the purchaser.
Okay.
I know he's going to get mad at me for saying that, but I had to say it.
But how? What recourse do I have?
Now that's his question. That's not mine. I'm just telling you what I read in there. Anything else? All right, any other public questions or comments tonight?
My name's Herzer. I live at 958 North Riverside. This concerns the sewer and the repair of the property and repair of the sprinkler system. Letterhead dated Tuesday, May 17th, 2022. It states, once the new sewer has been installed, your service lead will be determined to be transferred to the new service. In order to complete this task, there will be a brief period of time where your service lead will be out of service. Well, one of the issues when they came through there, they used my lot. The city has a small, narrow right-of-way. And then talking to Warren, I realized the city has to do it. It's progress. I understand that. I've worked for the gas company for 34 years in construction and office and management and everything else like that. So I do have some background on that. So when this started, they went down to survey it. And I said, they drove a truck down there and then they ran a video camera through the sewer. Then the next thing I know, they identified 4 sections that were bad, and they had to go down there and replace those. Again, I acquiesced and said, that's fine. And they were several joints of pipe. They went down there, replaced those bad areas. And when that was over, you think, well, they're done now. I guess it didn't fail. It failed the inspection. It wasn't adequate. So I woke up one morning and there was a 950 Caterpillar front end loader out there, a pile of 22A gravel, some other big machines. It took up the whole lot, way more than the right of way. But I acquiesced and said, fine, they've got to do this for progress, et cetera, et cetera. Well, they put the sewer in, and then when you're dealing with a sprinkler system, that's not always locatable. And you put a line in, you have a valve, you run it, another valve, run it. And I had 5 lines. So they tore up 4 of the 5, and then they said, with warm weather, temperatures are forecasted for over the next couple of weeks, we recommend property owners regularly water their newly placed sod to allow for the sod to be established. Well, guess what? I couldn't water it with my sprinkler system because that was all torn up. So I used the water from my house because I wanted to preserve and protect my property and the seed. They aqua seeded my property. They didn't put sod down there. Well, and then at the end of the month, I got a bill for $80 from the city for protecting my interest. Then I go down to with
Carl, I hate to ask you, but stay by that microphone because the people at home are going to want to be able to hear this.
St. Clair Irrigation came over and their sprinkler crew did a good job, but their maintenance crew, it was terrible. They came down, they were in a state truck one day about 4:30 leaving, and it was 3 or 4 guys and they were just running the gun, but I'm looking at them and going, you left a big swath here. So I went over there the next day, and Matt was in the meeting, and I said to the guys out there, hey, you missed a big portion of that when you guys were leaving the other night. And it was a deer in the headlight look. So now, there are about 3 or 4 places where there's deep gullies in that, and that land tends to expand. And that notice, this was May 17th when they first sent the letter out. The last one was Wednesday, June 29th. So do the math, the timeline between that and this notice. Plus, this came from the city of St. Clair. There's no signature block on it. So who do you call? Who do you talk to? At the bottom? So, but I invite any of you to come to my house, 958 North Riverside Park, and walk down on the lot all along the river and say, if this was my property, what would I do? And as far as the engineering firm and Murray, I beg to differ. I don't think that he was down there a couple of weeks ago with one of the parties from your firm, and they, oh yeah, I guess we'll have to do this, and he was writing a list down. But being competent, being practical, I know they take the lowest bid, but this guy, I'd never hire him to do any work. He just didn't, he didn't follow through. He said one thing, did another. One of the fellows was in an excavating piece of equipment. They had a big boom on it, and it's a claw where you dig out the clay. Well, he swung it and hit an oak tree, broke a couple limbs. And I said, what's the story on the limbs? What are you going to do? He said, well, we'll talk to our tree guy, which streetwise meant, you know, get the hell out of here. We're going to do what we're going to do. So your firm has a responsibility, or had the responsibility, to see that this was done correctly, and it wasn't done correctly. Why don't you come down there to my house and go down, walk down there and take a look at it, rather than blowing it off and say, oh, yeah, there's a few little holes, we'll take care of that.
All right, Carl, I'm going to have to stop you there, buddy. I know that I've had discussions with Ms. Sturdy, and she is contacting with AEW. And to my understanding, do you want to comment on this at all a little bit, or?
We've been receiving comments about the landscaping and repairs, and they've all been communicated with the AEW, who then communicates with the contractor. So every comment and complaint that comes in, we are acting on it, and you're not the only one with these issues. But I do have to say, Ryan has been very open and responsive in a timely manner. So, but please, if something isn't done properly, please let us know, and we'll follow up on it.
Have you walked down there lately?
Yeah, I was down there 2 weeks ago.
What did you see?
I was with the contractor at that time. He's supposed to be out there starting tomorrow and start preparing those areas.
So you're the guy I call if it's not done?
I believe my name and number has been on every notice on that project.
Did you get a lot of calls?
No, actually, Carl, I'm going to cut you off there, buddy. I fully trust Annette and Ryan are going to take care of this, and they'll be in contact.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to express this. All I want is, I don't want anything more. I think I just want it done right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We agree with you. Thank you. Anybody else?
Possible I could talk once more?
I have to let him talk again.
I think that's your discretion.
All right, make it quick, buddy boy.
Something different.
I noticed several of the council members were reading the contract that I had with the city. Now, am I right, Mr. Mayor Cedars, that you're telling me that I'm out of luck?
That was not my terminology at all.
Well, I mean, I see all these big numbers running around here. I mean, it says that the city agreed to take my money and to say that they would support that contract if the property was sold. The property is sold now, correct?
I do not believe that comment to be correct. And I know that what I'm reading before me says the purchaser will compensate you. So that is not us.
That sounds clear to me.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. I can't comment anymore. This is all legal stuff, and that's him. And he's tight-lipped.
Well,
And as he needs to be. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Want to ask a question he can answer? All right, let's go down to number 12 then. Mayor and council, comments. Anybody have anything?
Hearing nothing else, Your Honor, I make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, thanks for coming down here. Mr. Dominaire, thank you very much for your patience.